good hilarity and opinion with Jamie, Simon, and Hutch. The Newcastle Comparison, live weekly on NUFC Talk Radio, on YouTube, and in all your listening platforms. NUFC Talk Radio, the voice of the Toon Army.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Newcastle Comparison, and it's great to be here. I've got Simon and Hutch with me. First of all, just a little shout out to everybody listening on NUFC Talk TV, like and subscribe to the channel. Simon and Hutch, how are you both doing? Hello Simon.
Hello Jamie, good evening, how are we doing?
And how's Hutch himself, a miserable mag? I assume you're feeling worse than everybody else is after this weekend?
I would imagine so, yes, probably. Just before we get going though, would like to shout out to the Geordie Boot Boys who do provide the little ticker tape on our channel.
Thank you very much. So, little shout out, Newcastle Comparison. We're still very new, so please bear with us. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a little look back at what's happened over the last week, in particular the West Ham game, but also the Carabao Cup match with Tottenham and anything that surrounds that. Then we're going to look back at the past and other things and just see how we feel about where we are now versus where we've been in previous times. And sometimes it may make us feel a little bit better. I sense this week it might not do that job quite so well. But let's start at the former Olympic Stadium. Now, is this still called the London Stadium, or have they managed to cajole someone into sponsoring it yet? I don't know. But Simon, I'm going to throw this ball at you. What did you make of West Ham United 3, Newcastle United 1?
Well, it is the London Stadium, and for the, I'm going to probably use this card a lot throughout our time on this podcast, but I lived through the Ashley era, particularly the years under Steve Bruce. So that isn't the worst Newcastle performance I've ever seen, and I think the 3-1 flatters West Ham to some degree.
But was it the worst performance under Eddie Howe that you've seen?
Wow. Bit early for that, Hutch.
It's a question. People are asking it. You need to answer it.
No, I don't think so. And there's a couple of reasons why. In the second half, we dominated the ball. We scored a decent goal from Jacob Murphy. Could we say an unlucky but tired-looking own goal from Sven Botman?
I would say that Dan Burn is massively out of position.
Yeah. That didn't help. And that's probably because his legs are tired. And tiredness is a word I'm probably going to use as an excuse all the way through this. But they've played 3 great games over the past couple of weeks. And today it just seemed, you could see it physically on the pitch. It caught up with them. And then the second part of that were West Ham's tactics versus our tactics, where we sat on their 18-yard box in the second half and we couldn't cut through them. And without Big Nick on the pitch, we looked kind of out of ideas to be able to get through their defensive line as well.
Okay, so I think I agree with what you say about, Dan Burn, them looking a little bit tired at the back, going in behind at half time and struggling to pull it back a bit. But that was a very different team to what we had out in midweek. And I think they should have been capable of showing a lot more energy than what they showed. Hutch, your take on that? Do you think, is this just games mounting up, or was that an unforgivable performance?
It's a forgivable performance if we then go on to win both games next week. I don't necessarily agree with Simon in some of what he said. Yes, we've won the last 3 games, but I don't necessarily think that we played well against Fulham. I don't think we necessarily played well against Nottingham Forest, but fortunately Big Ange was in charge of them, and they were bloody awful. So
They were pretty awful.
They were bloody awful. But, we are in a situation at present where a lot of our best players just are simply not performing. You look at our goal contributions this season just in isolation in the Premier League, and basically it's Big Nick and Bruno who are putting in the goals for us. Yeah, well, and of course Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy currently has 2 and 1 assist, but he is the best of the rest when it comes to our wingers, because Gordon, Alanga, and Barnes currently sit on 0 goals, 0 assists, with a quarter of the season gone.
So a minute on that, because I don't think Jacob Murphy was brilliant today. But if he was playing in a team where everybody else was playing well, that is a good enough contribution. Kane won in the first 5 minutes. He made Areola work for for a pretty good save from a shot he had not long after, and he put himself about. He basically he has shots, Jacob
Yeah,
Murphy.
yeah, he has 3 or he had 3 or 4 shots in that game, and even in the second half. And do you know, like I was screaming at the TV when he smacked it over, but then I kind of looked at it and went, well, what the fuck was the alternative? You know, like Simon says, Big Nickel taken off at halftime. Asula came on, didn't massively contribute. He ran around a lot, and he tried, but he was the deliveries weren't there for him. And yeah, they just looks absolutely bereft of ideas.
Just on
And
Murphy, he's still our best right winger at the moment. Like his contribution and overall play this season has been better than Alanga. Alanga needs more time. Like I said it last week, I don't think he can kick a ball, and Murphy at least can strike a football in the direction he believes he wants it to go. And I've not seen enough of that from Alanga yet. But Eddie Howe will, I'm sure, work his magic.
Hutch, do you agree that
well,
that was the worst performance under Eddie Howe?
certainly since the with all things considered, certainly probably since the first season where he came in mid season. Obviously, there was a couple of really bad stinkers early on when he was kind of trying to find his feet.
Like
But
losing to Cambridge United at home in the cup, yeah, that's what.
yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was absolutely dreadful.
Well, I think, well, for perspective, we lost at home to West Ham last year, and that stunk the place out. That was when their manager was on the brink of the sack. They've got a new manager in who's just getting into his stride.
The same
It's
manager,
still an away game.
the same manager who we basically gifted his first league win when he became Nottingham Forest manager as well, with exactly the same scoreline.
Good comparison. That's the title of the show, isn't it? So, how long had he been Nottingham Forest manager when we lost to that Chris Wood hat trick?
A week.
A week.
A
So
week.
it's taken him a little longer to settle at West Ham, hasn't it? But same scoreline, same disappointing performance. I suppose you could say, I think, Simon, I kind of know what you're saying, because we haven't really lost to a team that are so low down the table. In my memory, I think we've done a really good job in the last 2 seasons of beating the kind of cannon fodder and not letting ourselves get upset. But some of the home defeats over the last couple of years, like that Forest game, West Ham last year, losing to Everton the last game of the season when the Champions League was on the line, I think those were maybe more disappointing in a way. But
Yep.
this just threatens to pull this season apart. And so, Simon, question here: is this Premier League season salvageable? We sit, 12th, 13th in the table. We just don't seem to be able to get the league form going. Can we
Yes.
qualify for Europe at least?
My answer is yes. Like I know. I think we're 3 points behind where we were after 10 games from last season. So I think it's very salvageable. And if you look at how some of the top teams are performing this year, it's a mixed bag apart from so far Arsenal. So I think there's plenty of points still to be won this season. I think at the moment the games are coming thick and fast, and this was a blip. And if again, the problem today was very clear. We didn't have a plan against that team that just sat back and defended in the second half after they'd nicked that goal. I think we had 27 crosses and only 2 to a teammate today, which says like we were missing Big Nick. If you keep Big Nick on the pitch, I think we score one of those in the second half, and that changes the game. But he's knackered, and that's also down to the Wisser injury and not being able to swap him out. So I think today's a blip. It's one game. We've won 3 on the bounce before that. I think we need to see how we turn it around from here. And I'm going to be in the Eddie forever camp until the dying end after he won us that trophy. So I think no time for panic, Captain Mannering.
That quite a lot, doesn't it? But there maybe is a breaking point. But Hutch, do you think that breaking point could occur anytime this season?
Hopefully not. I mean, I know there's some people online who will always think the grass is greener, and let's face it, it very rarely is. So I would like to think that his contribution so far will earn him many more seasons to come, and that this was just a blip. But there are some things that are concerning. We talked last week about how Eddie Howe has basically taken Jacob Murphy and not only resurrected his career, but made him into one of the most efficient and effective wingers in the Premier League.
And in our team.
And, well, 100% in our team, because Anthony Gordon is currently on a 19-game Premier League, no goal, no assist run.
Is that definite? Okay, hang on a second.
The last time.
Two takes. So 19 games. That is
19 games.
Half a season, right?
The last time that he contributed was an assist against Southampton in the 25th of the 1st, basically the start of this year. Now, I read that on a tweet by a guy called Thomas Hammond, and I was like, nah, come on. But yeah, I went on Transfermarkt. I had a look.
So,
the last contribution he made in the Premier League, specifically the Premier League, other than a red card, of course, was the 25th of the 1st.
So 25th of January in normal person speak. So Anthony Gordon made an assist against Southampton, who weren't really a proper Premier League team, were they? They were just a bottom feeder that people cashed in 3 points against every week, and if anybody didn't, they just got laughed at by the rest of the league.
I mean, we got someone sent off in the first half on the first game, and we still managed to cash in 3 points against them.
And that was before they were really broken, wasn't it? So 19 games, half a Premier League season, and you've obviously got to quantify that by saying he scored in both legs of the League Cup semi-final against Arsenal. He scored 4 in 3 games against Champions League opposition this year, albeit the 2 goals in Belgium were penalties. I don't think he's contributed to any League Cup goals this year, has he?
He has not.
But that is a serious fall off. He scored for England as well, didn't he, against Latvia or something?
Yeah.
But that's a serious fall off.
Yeah. In the Premier League, we seem to get, in the Cups, we seem to get the England version of Gordon. In the Premier League, we get the San Marino version of Gordon. And it's a stark contrast.
What? And I'm putting you on the spot here, David, but I would imagine Harvey Barnes' stats in that time are probably better from less game time, but you probably don't know that, do you?
Well,
you want me to ask you a different question? Have you ever been to Whitby, David?
I have been to Whitby, but I also know that Harvey Barnes, despite his lesser contribution, if you will, in terms of minutes, has scored and assisted within that time. Not this season, but he did score against he assisted against Aston Villa on the 19th of April. He also, bearing in mind that, Gordon got suspended over the Carabao Cup and then Barnes had to come in. There was worry at the time that he wasn't going to be able to contribute. He scored 2 goals against Man United, a goal against Leicester, a goal against Crystal Palace. In fact, he scored a goal and contributed assists against Crystal Palace. And as I recall, he had a very good Carabao Cup game without.
Well, he was kind of involved in the winner, wasn't he? When he brought it up the left wing, and it was Livermore who put it over. Murphy knocked it down. Can't remember who put it in, but never mind. But Hutch, what's all that got to do with Whitby?
Oh, because it's cold and it's bleak.
So cold and bleak, absolutely, because cold and bleak is a good way to describe statistics. So Gordon's basically been a passenger for half a Premier League season. I thought today it was really well summed up by a tweet I saw, which was that not only did he keep losing possession, but he kept losing possession in a way that threatened us. Like he cut back, cut inside, try and take three blokes on and lose the ball when Newcastle were further forward. And all of a sudden, he's kind of launched a counter attack for West Ham, hasn't he?
His
And
performance kind of like it kind of reminded me of when we were under Bruce and Alan Saint-Maximin used to get the ball to try and kind of do something with it and just kind of like try and push us up the pitch. But he used to do it in like the most bizarre ways. And he often used to run across the middle of the pitch. And obviously in those circumstances as well, there were a few games where we just completely lost the ball, caused a counter-attack against us, and those were the types of goals that we did concede under Steve Bruce. But like you get basically you're getting the St. Alan Saint-Maximin risk without the explosiveness at the present moment in time with Gordon in the Premier League.
in defence of Alan Saint-Maximin, he had nobody else to give that ball to because
Exactly.
he was the only like attacking threat there. Whereas Anthony Gordon, sometimes you see him get it, and there was a lot of times when Joe Linton made an overlap and run today on the left-hand side, and he just ignored him and cut inside to give it to, I don't know, Jared Bowen or something instead. So, I'm going to stick up for ESM at this point because I did love him at the time and he did a lot for us. But Anthony Gordon, I think we all know we need to see more from him. I think you could go through that team. Dan Burn had a terrible game. Bruno had a terrible game. Both of those have been 10 foot tall for us for many years now. They've both had great seasons. Simon, you said before exhaustion, are these guys playing too many games?
There's a lot of games. And to be fair, after this summer, without all the nonsense around he who should not be named, I think the squad was in a better position. I just don't think we got the players on the pitch right today. Like, Ramsey came on and brought a lot of energy, I thought, when he came on. And the tactics changed. I think Malik Chow was playing at right back, and that allowed Murphy to get further up the pitch and freed him up a bit. And the pressure was all on West Ham. I think the overall, like the ending stats was 67% possession for us, which wasn't from the first half. Yeah, stats, blah.
Oh, Christ. But, I'm going to check the table. How many points do you get for having the most possession?
The endeavour was there, is my point. And but I honestly, I don't think we had all the right players on the pitch at the right time, and then we were chasing the game. So I think that cost us, and we couldn't chase the game in the first half, and that was
I think really to basically to start, we need to start scoring more goals is effectively the long and short of it in the Premier League. And until we can basically
outstanding football insight. Hang on, clip this bit up, people. So if we need to score more goals, and what do you think we need to stop the opposition doing? Come on,
counter-attacking. No, but I mean, he who has not been named has been replaced by Big Nick, right? And the argument has been made time and time again, so we'll not go massively into it, but he's not a natural number 9. He needs a foil. The reason that Bayern was so interested is basically he could have been an understudy for Kane and brought on in that way. So, and Kane had Son, Kane has Elise, Kane has whoever else Bayern have at the present moment in time, Sane, and
beautiful insight.
So
you couldn't have done a quick Google of who plays for Bayern Munich, would you? That would have been too much bother.
But our wingers aren't providing that foil for him, as we've already discussed. Like Gordon's not getting beyond, and so you need someone basically to go beyond him. And one of the problems I do think with the squad today was that we had our workhorse midfield out. So we had, Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton. It
But
wasn't
he brought
necessary.
everybody on. He brought Ramsey on. He brought Barnes on. He brought Elanga on. He just kept changing. Everybody had a
After we
go.
took Nick off,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
point is
Okay.
that you'd use Nick to drag the defenders out of position to get in behind.
So
Because
what
Nick drops off the back line
I
and
think,
plays people in behind him or round him.
yeah.
And then
So Johan Wissa is a difference maker.
Yeah.
Wissa has been brought in effectively as a striker. He's a replacement for Callum Wilson, but he's the only striker we've brought in because what you're seeing there in a roundabout way is that Nick Walter-Marty isn't a line leader. He's a second strike. If Wissa's fit, then maybe things start working. And there's another unfortunate factor, which is that the injuries and illness and whatever have all hit the fullbacks. So you've got Hall out, Livramento out, and Kieran Trippier was ill today. So you've got like a little bit of a deficiency there, and you're lacking somebody to lead the line. But that doesn't mean that Bruno needs to kick it out of play, and they can't string a couple of passes together between defence and midfield. It doesn't stop that performance being that bad. And I don't think dropping those guys into that team will be an ultimate solution. I feel like it's a bit deeper than that. Do you not think that's fair to say that there was no cohesion in the passing? You must have seen a few bits where the pass was terrible.
They were. Everyone was just awful. Everyone had a bad game. I don't think it is unsalvageable. No. I just think they need to improve, and they need to improve fast. But I do think the team selection today, like I said, you don't need Joe Linton in that team because you don't need to kill anyone. So
the thing is,
but sorry Simon, but I also think that Simon's main point today was one of the reasons why we were so bad is that we're tired. Well, I'm sorry guys, but it's not going to improve. We have a 14-week spell coming up, and in that 14-week spell we've got like 23 games, and that's between Man City and Everton. So Man City in November, Everton in February. 14 weeks, 23 games.
So the issue there is we need a plan B for someone that parks the bus. So today the plan was get crosses into Big Nick, but Big Nick came off because he was tired. And then we put 27 crosses in and only 2 people got on the end of them. Then the other plan is to try and play through them, but we don't have a central attacking midfielder who can do that, which I think is a gap and we need to fill in January. And then you've got wingers who aren't contributing, apart from Jacob Murphy, who did contribute and scored his goal.
So that's it. Like, those wingers should be getting around the bar, and they're not. And that's a good point because Hutch, what you see in there, 23 games in that spell. But I believe we should get past Fulham. We should get past Fulham, and we'll come to that in a moment in the League Cup quarter-final. So that would add another 2 games.
25.
And I also believe we should be advancing in the Champions League, which could add another 2 games, which depend on how we get through, may or may not be in February. So you're literally looking at a kind of 3-month period where you're playing weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek. We cannot afford to be knackered playing the amount of games we played in the last few weeks. The international break was only, 3 weeks ago?
And another one's only in a week's time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to be fair, you would have thought with the number of changes made, we would have been all right. Like 8 changes for the game against Spurs midweek.
Yeah. We thought we'd got rotation right, hadn't we? So, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's just put West Ham to bed a little bit because it's kind of depressing, isn't it? And I know what you're probably loving that, but we need to talk about Whitby. So, I'm going to throw a random question out here based on what you've seen so far this season. Where do you think? And don't get into segues of signing someone in January and stuff. Where do you think Newcastle will finish this year in the Premier League?
Go on, Hutch. You go first. 17.
I think that, to a degree, that this is probably more of a blip than what is going to be a continuous thing. I would like to think that we will finish in the top 10.
More specific.
I think we will finish 8th.
8th. Okay, 8th. So that would be no European place, however you slice it, unless something we'll get into in a moment. So, okay, Simon.
Well, I'm going to go 7th because I'm more optimistic than Hutch, but not overwhelmingly so. I think that with the amount of games,
are you just playing higher or lower here?
Yes.
Are you just going one up on what he said?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But I think there's genuine thinking going into it as well. We're going to have blips this season because it's a tough schedule, and I think that's a reality. And we've got a good squad, but not an enormous squad. I think we'll have days where we'll beat teams like Fulham and we scrape through, and we'll have days where we lose the game like we did to West Ham today. But I think over the course of the season, we'll get into a decent position. And I think the league has to be as big a priority as we can make it with the squad that we've got.
Just before we go any further, so Jamie, do you want to go with 6th or 9th?
6th. I think. Well, I'll tell you what. I think we should be coming 6th based on the squad, the capabilities, the length of time they've had together. Based on today, I think I'm more inclined to agree with you and think it's something like 8. I think we're not going to be capable of going for long periods without throwing it away. But there's another factor, which I was cleverly leading up to there, which is I think that kind of lower top half of the table is where this season seems to be headed. We haven't even bloody looked. No one wants to look at the table at the minute, but we're 12th, 13th or something. But are we a cup team? So as we move on a little bit from West Ham, obviously we had a really straight professional performance against Tottenham. And that league position is going to be affected by how well we can do in the cup, because if you've got a choice between coming 6th and winning nothing, or coming 8th and winning the Carabao Cup, you want to just throw everything into the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup or whatever. So I guess the next question is, first of all, let's look at that Tottenham game and bring it in a little bit to say, did we just focus on the cups this season? And I include the Champions League in that, because the Premier League's already in a bit of a poor state. So do the cup games that are coming up take priority? Like in the next week, we've got Bilbao, we've got Brentford. We come up to Christmas, we've got a couple of Champions League games and the quarter-final of the League Cup. Hutch, would you take this as a cup season?
I would, but what I would probably say is that there is a slight danger that. So last season, giving you the example of both Tottenham and Man United, they treated it as a cup season. Both got to the Europa League final. Both finished absolutely appallingly in the Premier League, and frankly were only saved by the fact that the 3 teams that got promoted were all bloody awful and went straight back down again.
True.
That's not going to happen this season, so we do have to keep one eye on the Premier League and make sure that we are still competing.
We ain't getting relegated. If anyone's watching this thinking, "Oh, we're getting relegated," you're just being overly pessimistic. You're in this guy's territory now, and that is bad.
I would be happy with a cup double and the mid-table. Yes.
A cup double. Wow. Well,
you've got to improve from last season. However.
Well, put him on my arse. He's having the cup double, Simon. What are you having?
I can see the headline for this episode already. Hutch thinks Newcastle should be relegated. It's going to be the tagline for this one.
We'll narrowly avoid relegation.
As much as I love the cup last season, it was fantastic. Do not get me wrong. The leagues are cliche alert. The leagues are bread and butter.
Bread and butter.
It is, mate. And this is the point. Like,
sorry, I couldn't hear you for the sound of the clicks of people logging off.
You said sixth, like that's where we're going to finish. If sixth is the place, then we need to prioritise the league over the Carabao Cup. And this is obviously in the face of me reversing the outcome of what's happened this week. So in our last podcast, I said we were going to be losing to Spurs and beating West Ham, and the opposite has happened. And I don't think we feel brilliant about that. I think we would have probably taken a loss against Spurs had we battered West Ham today, a team that we thought we would batter.
Felt fantastic on Wednesday, to be fair.
And Spurs played, and Spurs have been, well, they've got results recently. I think we found the cracks in their armour on Wednesday. Just on Wednesday as well with Spurs, I wanted to make a couple of shout outs. Obviously, Malik Chow was superb in that game. He was brilliant.
He was.
Bothered through the whole thing. And also Aaron Ramsdale, a couple of little cameos for him. That save was a fantastic save, but also he played as one of the defence as well, which Nick Pope doesn't do in the same way. Nick Pope has got Premier League throwing arms and Sunday League kicking legs. Aaron Ramsdale is a footballer. Like, I don't think we've had anything similar in the goalkeeper position.
I think we might see Aaron Ramsdale again against Athletic Club on Wednesday.
There was one little cameo, I think you remember, where he came out and started sprinting towards the halfway line, chasing after the ball, and then did like a karate kick and kicked the ball out, and the crowd went mad. It was a lovely little moment, but you trusted him to do it, and I think the defence trusted him with the ball at his feet a bit more as well, and some of his kicking was good as well. So I think that was a nice cameo from him.
Joe Willock looked more like the Joe Willock of old rather than the Joe Willock of last season.
Yeah, he was probably player of the match. Yeah,
he was.
I think Malik Chow was player of the match, or in fact, no, come on, it was Tonali, wasn't it?
But Tonali was.
Like, you know the old quote, like, water covers 70% of the globe, Sandro Tonali covers the rest.
Yeah.
It was magnificent on Wednesday night. Hutch,
I did notice though that Tonali refused actually to pass. What do I think of Tottenham? Shite.
Oh, come on, it was do better. Come on.
Well, okay, right. So, what did I think of Tottenham?
Wednesday night's victory over Tottenham Hotspur in the EFL Cup.
We were very professional. It was the exact opposite of West Ham. We kept the ball well. We applied pressure when needed. Our set pieces were fantastic. I'm not even going to get into, that stupid bloody thing that they whinged about. We were just.
Hang on,
we played well.
You can't say that. What did they whinge about? It's
basically
Tottenham.
Right. So basically, Jed Spence decided that it would be a really good idea to basically take his shoe off and put it back on again within 10 yards of Sandro Tonali when he was about to take a corner. He then put his boot back on, ambled back into the box where apparently he was supposed to be man-marking Fabian Schär. He was absolutely gobsmacked when the referee went, play on, after he moved away from that 10-yard box, and Fabian Schär scored probably the easiest header that he's ever scored in his life. And yet somehow, apparently, this is against the fair play of the game. No, absolutely rubbish. It's all about marginal gains. If he's out of position, we are going to take advantage of that.
And Richarlison got booked for being a worky ticket in complaining about this, didn't he? But I think it was Bergvall was marking share. And unless
that's not
was to stand on Bergvall's shoulders, he wasn't getting near Fabian Schär. So
Thomas Frank in the interview afterwards said that it was Jed Spence who was supposed to be marking Schär. Now, whether or not he's basically Billy bullshitting or not,
I thought he was marking him. He should have been there, but we had it only 5 minutes. Something like that, was it?
It was very much something like that, yes.
So some clamped, tried to tie his laces, messed around, got found out, and then Farb, I thought, had a great game, knocked the header in.
Had a great game.
Yeah,
I thought he done all right. He was one of the less weak performers today. He came on at half-time at 2-1, pinged a few balls over the top. Played alongside Malik Chow. It was excellent.
Just to add to that, and my which is going to be a regular segment of the great things that Fabian Schär did this week, because he's the best centre-back we've ever had. I thought he was brilliant. Again, his long ball and his range of passing against Spurs and his header. And him and Malik Chow are probably one of the best centre-back pairings we've ever had already. Like,
it was
fantastic.
Ramsdale played well, as you called out there, and he made a particularly good save from, I think, was it Kudus, where he got down to in the bottom corner. But I think from the point that Schär scored, we felt comfortable in that tie, and it was just professional. Thought Tottenham were quite bad, to be honest.
And of course, it continued the Schär's scoring a goal in every single season that he's played for us so far.
8 consecutive seasons. I have a question for you here. Do either of you know the last Newcastle player to have scored in 8 consecutive seasons in competitive games?
I think Shola scored in 7, which would mean that it was Shearer.
Well, that's not 8, is it, mate? So it's not Shola, no. And I'll tell you why it's not Shola, because in I think it was 2007 to 8, Kevin Keegan really didn't fancy Shola, and he loaned him out to, I believe, Stoke. And Shola didn't register a goal for anybody in that season, let alone Newcastle. So it's not him. And Alan Shearer, you're right, scored in 10 consecutive seasons for Newcastle every time he played for us. There is another one, though. Simon, who is he?
I'm going to guess at Rob Lee.
It's not Rob Lee, because he obviously left before Shearer. It's actually, and I was shocked at this, and I've got to credit Chris Waff at The Athletic and Pod of the Tyne, who confirmed this. It's Kieran Dyer.
Really?
And I thought, you'd assume Kieran Dyer spent the whole entire season injured at some point, wouldn't you? But he scored in 8 consecutive seasons for Newcastle United. However, both him, Alan Shearer, and both of those wrong guesses were all attacking players. And Fabian Schär, as a centre-half, has scored in 8 consecutive seasons, and that's pretty magnificent. 22 goals for Newcastle.
That's why he's the best.
So I would hope he gets a chance to bypass Dyer and plays in 9 consecutive seasons, but we'll see, eh? So, anyway, as we said, workmanlike performance, but we managed it. We got through in the League Cup, and we're in the quarter-final draw. How do you feel about the quarter-final draw, chaps?
It's certainly easier than last year.
It is a bit, isn't it? I'm actually going to pull it up. Is it? It was. I mean, I'm saying that, but that's before we get into last year. This is the full draw, so we have Fulham at home, some 10 days before Christmas or something. Last year we had Brentford at home. Hutch, I think that's a very similar fixture. Do you know? Okay.
I mean, maybe.
Well said, mate. Do you want to go back to Whitby? Is that a better topic? But overall,
do you know? I've got it in my head that Thomas Frank always provides us with some form of challenge, but then I don't actually think he does. I think that's probably just in my head.
Right. Okay. So Thomas Frank manages Tottenham, and we've already beaten them.
But then he managed Brentford last year.
Simon, can I just turn this over to you for this, because I think Hutch has had a couple of beers.
Yeah, we'll get through and probably play Chelsea away or something like that, I think. And I think the fantastic run we had last season, it would stagger belief to go through something like that again, I think, for anybody. I think the chances of winning 2 League Cups in a row, and I'm going to use a statistic for you here, Jamie, is around 5% or something like that. Like, never fun with the odds, but it's highly unlikely.
Well, that's probably 5% at the start of the season, but when you get the quarter-final, that'll increase, won't it?
Probably, yeah. But
so we haven't really researched that, even though that's...
It was a half-assed stat
to start with, isn't it?
It's really half-assed stat, to be fair, yeah. But I think we'll beat Fulham comfortably. But we'll get one of those big three in the next round, and I think
Well, that's it. So I think a lot of stuff I saw online complaints with that. If you look at this draw, for anybody obviously just listening, Arsenal against Crystal Palace, Cardiff City against Chelsea, Manchester City against Brentford, and Newcastle United against Fulham. And I saw a few online complaints saying that the big teams, of which we are one, have been kept apart. So you've got us, Man City, Chelsea, and Arsenal as a likely semi-final lineup. And especially after this weekend in West Ham, you've got to look at that and say, well, if it is that semi-final lineup, you probably don't fancy us to beat someone over two legs and then beat another one at Wembley. Or do you? Hutch, are you there?
We didn't fancy ourselves against Arsenal last year, and yet we did it twice.
That is a very good point. And
so,
go on.
Depending on who we get, I mean, obviously the Arsenal of this season and the Arsenal of last season are slightly different. However, having lived through that experience, I would be less daunted by it. And I would hope that Eddie and the lads would be less daunted by it as well. And as we've already pointed out, our form in the Cups compared to our form in the league is much better. So I would, I'm more positive than I was last season, put it that way.
So I've got a little something here. So last season, if you look at a similar thing, we reached the same stage last season, if you remember. If you think about it, actually, we ended up winning the Carabao Cup, if anybody had forgotten about that. So here's a little look at how things were last season. So last year's quarterfinals, we had Tottenham against Man United, Arsenal against Crystal Palace, Newcastle against Brentford, and Southampton against Liverpool. So you could have looked at that, and I would say it'd been even more despondent. The only sort of slight hope we might have had is that Southampton might have beaten Liverpool.
Can you remember when we all got really excited that Tottenham played really well in the first leg against Liverpool and then completely
That was a semi-final. That was a semi-final. So
yeah,
like
I'm just saying.
Look at the screen.
I'm just saying.
It's like playing darts with spaghetti. So last year, Tottenham against Man United, you thought, well, there's a big hitter into the semi-final. Arsenal against Palace, that's the same tie, isn't it? They're playing each other in this year's quarter-final. And then you had to assume that Liverpool might be lurking there. Obviously, we smashed the faces in at Wembley. But you look at that and you might have thought similar things. But I think the big difference is we didn't have the Champions League then, did we?
No, exactly. And I think that is a big factor, as we found out today. So we shall see. Again, like I say, I think we'll beat Fulham. I don't think that's a problem for us. It's at what point and at what form we're in when we play one of those bigger teams, who I think will all get through. So Chelsea, City, Arsenal.
I should point out as well, we did have a brilliant New Year trip at Arsenal, didn't we, when we won that game? That's sort of the antithesis of everything we're at now. Anthony Gordon scored a nice fat away win, which we don't seem to do anymore. And it's just a question: can we do that again? You know, it's probably Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea. I'd prefer maybe Chelsea out of those lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we ran Arsenal incredibly close as well.
We tore them apart. If you look at those two teams in isolation and said which one of these teams is going to be top of the league next year, you'd have said Newcastle hands down.
Yeah, and frustratingly, the state of Liverpool now. I mean, anyway, but let's not get into that. Yeah, but yeah, I think we'll give any of them a game in the cup. But I stand by my point about making sure we're doing the right things in the league.
Hutch, you were advocating chucking the Carabao Cup this time last week, so
throw the cup.
Yeah. So now you're saying we're going to win 2 cups. Is this going to be one of them?
Fickle. By the way, I'd never say something like throwing the cup. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
I really look forward to going to Preston North End singing Champions of Europe. You'll never say that.
Wow. He's advocating relegation, really. That's, you know what? That's quite a nice segue because we've done that. We've done West Ham. We've done Tottenham. Hutch.
Yo.
It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, but what's your cloudy lining of this week? It's not too hard when things look so bad, but bearing in mind, we did have a nice progression, a nice draw in the Carabao Cup. We've had a bad weekend against West Ham, but do you have a negative view that the average fan on the street might not have seen? Can you hear me, Hutch?
I can hear you, yeah, and I kind of thought I'd already been over it when I was concerned about the fixture congestion coming up, but I'm not really sure what you're getting at anymore.
Sorry, I just did not top and tail that appropriately. So your cloud line of this week is that we're going basically from. Well, I think that's you know what? I think that's a very good one. I must admit, I was setting this up as an opportunity to take the piss out of you, but the fact that we're struggling to play 2 games a week now in quite a short spell, you're saying that trying to do that between November and February is going to be absolutely stifling.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Yeah. I mean, from what Simon's saying, if they're looking tired now, that is going to be an absolute marathon of potential games. I suppose my only other cloudy lining is that we all applied for the Everton tickets. Simon and I didn't have the points.
Yeah.
But that should segue nicely, Jamie, into 5 years ago. Who did we play?
Yeah, well, it's Everton, wasn't it? But I think you just need to clarify that because there'll be people maybe watching, listening who don't understand the away application process. So you have your loyalty points and you all put in together, and because the Dick, as I believe they're calling it, the Hill Dickinson Stadium is brand new. There's a lot of people who want to go there, and it's sort of on quite a high points allocation. I think it was 62 points, and I've got more points than you guys. So me and our counterpart, Party Marty, will be going to Everton, and you guys would both plan to come, but you'll be unable to get there. So I'll maybe record some live stuff from the Dick.
Well, enjoy the Dick. I think is our sentiment. Enjoy the Dickinson.
Well, it depends how the Dick treats me on the day, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
It maybe once I'm in the Dick, everything will be grand, or it may be that I'll never want to think about the Dick again this season. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to Everton in a few weeks. But 5 years ago, just getting into the comparison, we did play the Ev at home. Steve Bruce was manager. 2020, behind closed doors, one of them weird games that we'll all have watched on the TV. 2-1 win. Both goals scored by Callum Wilson. Can't remember much about it. Apparently, it was one of those where Jordan Pickford was so rattled playing against Newcastle that they just kept dropping him and playing alternative goalies. If only that was the case now, because he's played really well against us the last few times. But yeah, again, just a bit of a hawk back. Obviously, better weekend result than what we just had, but we don't really want to be in those days, do we? Where that was probably 3 points towards staying up.
It was probably one of the better ones from lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think probably a little bit of a hard back to today, because it's easy to forget what a great player Callum Wilson was for us. Not only in supplementing the attack when we qualified for the Champions League the first time, and even playing his part in the League Cup win last year, but really being a difference maker when we were fighting relegation under Bruce. And he got a really good reception today, and I think nobody can begrudge him that. But yeah, he destroyed Everton 5 years ago today, or this week. 10 years ago, let's just get over this one in 30 seconds. A 0-0 draw with Stoke City. That is basically how you would sum up bad days in the Premier League, isn't it? 0-0 with Stoke. Apparently their goalie was man of the match. Again, it was when we were on the way to relegation. And what you've got to look at in that season, that's one of those 2015 to 16 that any result we could have done better in would have meant we didn't get relegated. But we couldn't beat Stoke at home. So, yeah, let's not think about that. Maybe it makes people feel a little bit better about, not quite turning up against West Ham away and then looking forward to the Champions League that 10 years ago we were unable to beat Stoke. But let's talk about 15 years ago. It was Halloween on Friday. Halloween 15 years ago was a day we all remember. Simon, do you remember who we played that day? 2010?
Is it going to be Sunderland?
It was Sunderland.
It is Sunderland. Hutch, you remember the score?
I do. It was 5-1.
A 5-1 win. It was the last time we beat Sunderland at St James's Park, 15 years ago.
Wow.
We've beaten them twice on their ground since, including last year in the FA Cup. But it was a tremendous day, wasn't it? We were all there, sat together. Memories of that day for you, Hutch?
Mile Castle, early doors, bacon sandwiches, because it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
So you had to buy a bacon sandwich with a pint. It was the only way you could get a pint. So there was lots of bacon sandwiches just hanging around on the bar.
Yeah.
I remember the match. I can't remember much after the match. Shola's goal, the athletic kind of like, was it a scissor? Yeah, amazing. But he's called the Mackham Slayer for a reason. And
I had a bet on Shola. I had 20 quid on Shola to score a hat trick. And at 4-0, it was he'd scored twice and Kevin Nolan had scored twice. And at 4-0, he kind of headed it across goal and Nolan nudged it in at the far post and Nolan got a hat trick. And I
it was going in as well.
I pulled him up. I met him in person a couple of years later and I said, if you would have scored a hat trick that day, I'd have won $1,000. And he went, oh, sorry. It's all right. It's all right. You did a canny job that day. There's other things I would pull you up about more so than that in your Newcastle career. But yeah, he's a lovely guy, surely, if anyone's ever met him. But yeah, hell of a day.
Sorry to correct you as well. We weren't sat together that day. A Geordie mate of mine had come up and we swapped seats and I went and sat across with him in line with the 18-yard box at the leaders end. And
this makes sense. This makes sense to me.
Sorry, go on.
Because my then girlfriend, now wife, was at that game, and that was the first time she's ever attended a time we had Derby. And if anyone's ever brought the lass to a game and it's gone well, then like they'll be aware of how much that you go on about it. Like I think she takes partial credit for it. It's a good job she wasn't there. It's a good job she wasn't there when I met Shola and said about that, because she would have said, well, it was me who gave us the win anyway. But I think your movement must have allowed her to get in there.
Yeah, I remember the Jaeger bombs and bacon sandwiches early doors. And then at that end is where Titus Bramble got sent off as well for a heinous foul on one of our players. And that was great, to be honest, because he had so much promise when Bobby brought him in, and he just shunned it by being one of those guys that goes out on the town and ruining his career around Newcastle. Had a big reputation.
I don't want to show my age, but I used to see him out a lot, Titus Bramble, probably more than anybody out of that team at the time.
And waving him off was one of the greatest highlights in that game, obviously, as well as the 5 goals and just a smashing day out.
Yeah,
Darren Bent scored one towards the end of the game. Obviously, at the time, I thought it was slightly disappointing. But given that we kind of converted the scoreline into Sunderland, i.e. 5 UNDER 1, and it was Chef's kiss, perfect.
Yeah,
yeah.
but you could have put the 0 as the D, couldn't you? So, but well, that's unusual. You'll find the silver lining in that, aren't you?
They brought their goal up, which is a bit of a cloudy lining to what was a positive
Yeah,
day. But
yeah,
anyway,
it did, didn't he? There was absolutely no need for that, was it?
yeah.
I was
Anyway,
just going to say, if you mentioned the Jaeger bombs there, if anyone from Jägermeister is listening,
we're too old for that
and
sponsorship now. We don't need that.
So here's a question about question about merch really. Was this the last game that we released as a DVD?
that's a
Surely.
shit question, not me.
Well,
Because
do you know, I
DVDs
just
were still a thing then.
Oh, it's on the lips of everybody, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, that question is, when did DVDs stop being a thing? It's not what's the last DVD that was
Yeah.
released.
no, but like you used to go in the club shop and you used to get like a review of the season, didn't you, as a DVD? But this one was like the entire game.
Yeah, I've still got
Yeah.
I've got the review on VHS of the 96-97 season when Keegan left. Which
Oh my God, are we going this way? Are we? I used to live in a windmill and it's Christmas. I got to be a carol and a tangerine. Right, sorry, no, let's move on from the
yeah.
club shop VHSs. It's like, every year when it's Halloween and someone says, when I used to go out on Halloween, I used to wear a bin bag and carry a turnip. And you'd be like, mate, you've said that every year and so has everybody else.
I don't know
Say
what
something
outfit
new.
that is with a bin bag and a turnip. I don't know what you're dressed as there, but anyway, let's move on.
Well, exactly. You're not dressed as anything, are you? Anyway, I am going to go back to those days, though. I'm doing well here in this segue, I think, because one last little look behind. That's also a look ahead. 31 years ago.
Wow.
That's a long old time. 31 years ago, on the 1st of November, we lost 1-0 to Athletic Club in Bilbao. And I'm going to explain this a little bit because a lot of people won't remember it. But I was, as a child, at the first leg of this UEFA Cup tie. We went 3-0 ahead, and we thought we had course. And we'd won the first round of that UEFA Cup 10-2 on aggregate against Antwerp. And it was like, Europe's easy for Kevin Keegan's Newcastle. And we just kind of went to sleep a little bit. Bilbao scored a couple of late goals. It ended up a 3-2 win. And they beat us 1-0 in Bilbao and went through on away goals, which was really disappointing because you'd hope that team could have won the UEFA Cup, and they certainly could have done. But everyone who went on that trip talks about it as being one of the best trips ever. And the friendships forged there have gone on through time because Bilbao was such a welcoming place and everybody got on so well. We played them in Rob Lee's testimonial. We played them in pre-season a couple of years ago, and they recognised the long-standing relationship. There was a big Bilbao flag in the East Stand. There was exchanging of banners, and we've got them on Wednesday in the Champions League, which will be a great event. Really need to beat them. Really should beat them. But Hutch, the club that I think we think a lot of, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that what
Simon? Yeah, really. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. You've kind of covered the entire thing.
Well, are you going to grab a half and half scarf, even though it'll be red and white? Because there is a school of thought, there's actually an online account from a Sunderland fan that lives in Bilbao that regularly states that Sunderland should have a better relationship with Athletic Club because they both play in red and white stripes. But I believe they play in red and white stripes because they bought Southampton kits back at the start of their origins. And
well, I would say that particular person, should, would, could, but don't have a better relationship. And yeah, I will be buying a half and half scarf because, as you know, every Champions League game that I have attended, I do have one. As much as that is one that I haven't, as much as it offends some people, it's just a little souvenir. And yeah, I will be purchasing one.
For anyone who doesn't know, UEFA produce official half and half scores for every single Champions League game that go for 20 quid in the respective club shops. And Hutch has an absolute stack of these because he's a pecker. And um, and no offense to any other peckers listening who might go out there and buy these scarves, but it's just not for me. I think like there's an ask from War Flags for Wednesday night that everybody brings black and white scarves, and bringing black and white
Uh,
scarves that are half red and white just kind of is a little bit counterproductive. And if more people bring them and we end up getting beat, it was the Mexican wave that got us beat in that UEFA Cup game for anyone who remembers. But a breed of red and white scarves this time.
I will also be bringing my black and white, my pure black and white scarf that I
So
got
you'll be
just
just
before.
loaded down with scarves, and will you?
Chances are it's going to be a cold day, so I will probably be loaded down with scarves and layers and whatnot. So
So it'll be like, yeah. So if anyone sees me and Simon at the game on Wednesday night with what looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it'll just be Hutch overdressing for the winter. Simon, I think what's your thoughts? Because I think we should be beating Athletic Club, and if we do, not wanting to go ahead, but I think we've got one foot in the knockout rounds of the Champions League.
Yeah, I agree. Let's carry on the good cup form. As much as I say that I don't think the cups are the main focus for us this season, the Champions League is obviously the pick of the cups that we're in. And I think we save the good performances for that. As at the moment, we seem to be anyway. So we might get good Gordon instead of bad Gordon. And we might get impactful Alanga instead of can't kick a ball Alanga. And hopefully the rotations that we made today that seem to be required halfway through the match. That gives people the break they need because it's a short turnaround Sunday to Wednesday as well. And we did the job on Wednesday.
Yeah,
we've also got some away fixtures coming up in that competition, and while we beat Union Saint-Gilloise, you know, the more points that we can get at home is probably better, just in case. Although, to be fair,
and I think it's worth saying that I think 11 points got you into the playoff round last year. We are currently in the top 8, which gets you in straight into the last 16. But the bottom line's got to be getting into that playoff. And if we get 9 points, even if it's a case of falling over the line post Bilbao, we can be very hopeful, I think, of getting a Champions League knockout tie for the first time in our history. We've never had a non-league stage game in the Champions League. After that, we play Brentford. What's the odds, do you reckon, if you and Wissam make this Newcastle debut and scoring the winner? Hutch, I bet you're the kind of jolly upbeat fellow who can just about see that happening, can't you?
I don't think it will happen, and I'll tell you exactly why I don't think
Sure.
it's going to happen.
That's all right, I know.
Because I think that if Johan Wissa appears for us in that particular game, I think he will inevitably go on international duty. So
Right.
I don't think the club would risk re-aggravating that injury, especially with an important, up and coming fixtures. And yeah, I don't think they'll risk it.
Okay, so you're thinking like Dr. Congo will just see him playing against Brentford, call him up, and he'll get napped again playing in Africa, yeah?
I think there's a risk of it, yeah, and I would rather not do that.
You'd rather not, yes, absolutely we would. Simon, Brentford, can you see us getting something to recover from today's awful result?
Yeah, it's not the Thomas Frank Brentford, and to be fair, Thomas Frank Tottenham isn't even the Thomas Frank Tottenham. So I think, I think hopefully that's an easier game than it has been in recent seasons. Although we've done one of them against them, apart from I think at home last season we had a slip up against them. Yeah, I think we'll be fine.
No, we beat them at home, didn't we?
Didn't we get beat 4-2 by Brentford, or was that away?
That was Brentford, yeah.
Oh, okay. Still, I think we'll do all right against
Brentford. Yeah, that was at Brentford, and it kind of created a bit of an inquisition that sparked the turnaround, whereby we started winning loads of games because we were really poor there, weren't we?
Yes, it did.
And then, so well, I mean, I think Brentford have been very hit and miss this season, but we've just kind of got to, haven't we? If we can beat Bilbao and beat Brentford, this result maybe this time next week, going into the international break with Wissa back. Paul was on the bench today. Livermore will come back. It might not seem so bad. Is that optimistic, Hutch?
You've got to hope that they look at today's performance and they want to correct it. Everyone there wants to correct it. So Athletic Club, I do think we would probably win. Brentford, if we could get our first away win, that would be fantastic. But I really don't want to stick my foot in it and say that we will win, because we did that last week and we fucking lost.
Yeah, so don't say it.
I think we could be more confident about it last week, but you know, it's still a team that isn't at the top of their powers. They lost a lot of people from last year, so we maybe go there and hope to win. But hey, let's just see. Right, I'm going to move on to one last thing before we close. So, one last comparison. So, for anyone who can't see, we've got a little graphic where we want to look at where we'd place everybody in the Premier League, whether they're a worldwide international club, whether they're a massive club like Newcastle United, big, medium, small, or tin pot. So we agreed, guys, we're going to focus on West Ham United. Simon, I'm going to come to you first. Where would you put West Ham on that grid?
Well, there's a lot of, I think, romanticism around West Ham just because of their legacy and big names that have played for that club over the years, and also their links to the World Cup winning side with the likes of Bobby Moore and Jeff Hurst. So I would say big. They've also got one of the biggest stadiums in the league as well, even though it's probably not one of the best stadiums in the league.
The stadium's no good, isn't it? If anyone saw that on any kind of TV today, the distance between the pitch and the stands just cancels out any atmosphere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you're seeing big, yeah?
Yeah. Even though you think the halftime entertainment might be the long jump.
Yeah. Hutch, views on West Ham as a club?
I like West Ham. Good supporters. Been through, a lot recently. Their ownership is, though they don't like their ownership, possibly it's getting as bad as the way that we felt towards Mike Ashley towards the end. Yeah, I would agree with Simon. Big.
Well, I would agree with you both. I would be outvoted even if I didn't. I think, looking at it, they've actually, did you know they've never been champions of England?
Really? Surprised at that.
Does that surprise anybody? But FA Cup winners, League Cup winners, they won the Conference League, they've won the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Yes,
League Cup winners, never League Cup winners, League Cup runners up, but 3 times FA Cup winners.
They are one of the many clubs that have come up and sang Champions of Europe. You'll never sing that recently.
Yeah. Which I think they sing that tongue in cheek because they know that the what's it called, the Conference League is not really a European
Farmers League
trophy for any degree of consideration.
Yeah.
But fair play, across the next couple of years, I would love to win that.
Absolutely love to, yeah. Hand them out like confetti. Got Europe on it, absolutely. Throw it at me, yeah.
I think it's a discussion for another day, but there's an argument to say let's get ourselves into a winnable European competition this season, some season in future. Have a jolly run to the final, go to somewhere like Bucharest or Stockholm or Cluj and have a very random midweek out, empty our bank accounts, win a funny looking European trophy and remember it for the rest of our lives, which may not be that long depending on where that final is held.
Yep.
But we all agree, West Ham United are a big club. So, I think we need to leave it at that, boys. It's been a decent comparison. It's not been a great weekend, but we can be hoping for a good week ahead, can't we?
Oh yeah,
Can?
off to Europe we go.
Yeah, off to Europe we go, even though the game is 3 miles from my house. That's a story for another day. But thanks for joining. Simon, thanks for joining. Hutch, thanks for moaning. Hutch's follow-up podcast, The Miserable Mags Guide to Whitby, is available on all good formats. Don't forget to like and subscribe for NUFC Talk TV. And if you listen to this as a podcast, you already know it. So thank you very much. So
Cheers, chaps.
Cheers, yeah.
cheers, guys. I will, and we'll be on next week with a review of both Brentford and what they called Athletic Club.
Hutch's favourite team.
100%. Right.